Chapter 1, The Satellites Aren't Broken. You are listening at famvetv.info. RonTheBlackCat, Not this, nor that. The inhabitants in this one are still using flint spears. That's not going to be useful at all. No intelligent creatures in that one. A few. Later, these are somewhat advanced and look similar to my mortals, but they are definitely not acceptable. They look terrifying, and what's with their armor? They even have a god-emperor of some sort, definitely not using them. Aha! Finally. This one seems fairly advanced, not super terrifying, and the mortals in this one look similar to my mortals. I suppose I should investigate it. I can only use a part of it. Later that I could just, use one so I don't disrupt much. I'm pretty sure whoever is in charge of this world won't mind. Right. That one seems to be the most powerful one according to this thing that these mortals call the internet. Let /s just use that. Later. This is far more complicated than I thought. Why did they place their military all over this world? I have to make sure that I summon them so that they won't collapse the moment they get to my world. Well, this internet thing is quite useful in making sure I summon everything. July 18, 2019 AD Heaven. God. What is it, my child? I think you have to look at this. God looks down on Earth. 0505 July 18, 2019 CE Washington, D.C., United States of America. The sun was peeking out of the horizon on a seemingly normal day in the United States of America. Since it was about an hour before the rush hour, the streets of its capital made little sound. On a table near a bed, a phone rang. What now? I still have. The person on the bed opened his mouth in a yawn and rolled his body towards the clock that was on the table. An hour and a half. He reached out with his hand and grasped his phone. He slowly put it to his ear. Ugh. What is it? This better is important. You know how I like to sleep. The voice over the phone line sounded worried. Mr. President. It /s urgent, we need you at the Situation Room now. Sounds like my Chief of Staff, John Wills. Are we getting nuked, invaded, or is there some kind of crisis? No, but, not important. The President hung up without waiting to listen. Give me 15 minutes. He mumbled to no one as he closed his eyes. 15 minutes later the President was sitting on his chair in the Situation Room. The Situation Room was a room with one big table and multiple chairs surrounding it. There were also TVs on the walls around the Situation Room and one large TV situated in the back. There were also other rooms around the Situation Room which consisted of officers who were receiving information and processing it. The National Security Council and advisors were all there in their seats and the officers were present in the other rooms. The National Security Council consisted of President Ronell Hay, Vice President Maxwell Woggs, Secretary of State Katarina Clifford, Secretary of Defense Carlson Roberts, Secretary of Energy Kobe Elliott, and Secretary of Homeland Security Lenny Clark. The advisors were the Chief of Staff John Wills, National Security Advisor Blair Howards, and Homeland Security Advisor Taylor Skye. Mr. President, you can't always ignore us. John sounded very annoyed. The President sighed. I know, John, but you should get used to the fact that I like to sleep. The President looks at everyone in the Situation Room. What is it this time? The last time I was called because of urgent matters was when the Middle East was literally falling apart. What is so important that you have to call me during the most important part of the day? My bedtime. There was a tense silence for a few seconds before John decided to continue talking. Sir, it's going to be hard to explain, but we think we might not be on Earth anymore. After he said that, the President just sat there and stared at his Chief of Staff for a good minute. John, it might be easier if you look at our satellite images. John swings his chair towards the main TV and turns it on. It showed a planet that was similar in size and shape to Earth. The President stares at the image. What the? That seems just like, wait, what /s with all these continents? That continent seems like North America. Canada looks a bit weird and Mexico doesn't exist. Are you telling me that that's the United States of America, sir? That \s what our satellite indicates, this is not going to be good. Sigh. Great, just great. More sleepless nights, okay. So what do we know? Well, let's at least gather as much info as we can. Well, we are unable to communicate with any foreign countries but we still have all of our satellites. That's confusing. If we are on another planet, why do we have our satellites? How about the satellites of other countries? It seems that only ours are in space. What is this? This does not make any scientific sense. It could make more sense if a part of the stuff in space and a part of the Americas to be transported to another place. Like an anomaly that affected that area. However, our satellites are quite scattered. We have about 900 of them in space. It's weird since only specifically American satellites got transported. Anything else? If I may, Carlson, the Secretary of Defense, was waiting patiently for John to finish. Go ahead, Carlson. Well, it seems all of our major foreign military bases are spread out in a pattern across what used to be Canada, so in addition to the satellites, our foreign military bases were transported with us. This gets stranger by the minute. How many is that and what do you mean by spread out in a pattern? It should be about 50 in total. In addition, it seems that our men and equipment in minor foreign military installations, on the battlefield, and stationed in other areas that are not in the United States somehow wound up near where the major military bases are. The pattern seems to be naval bases on the coast, army bases inland, and air force bases further inland. They all seem to have a similar distance to each other. Moreover, the ships that we had deployed overseas have reported that their positions have changed to our coasts. They are also spread out in a pattern. So what I am getting here is that even though the United States is not on Earth anymore, anything that belongs to it, even if it wasn't in the United States, also got transported here. It's as if someone picked up the United States and its possessions and deliberately moved it to another world. The phone in the Situation Room started ringing. The Vice President, Maxwell, picks it up because he was the closest. Okay. So all of the foreign ambassadors disappeared. Okay. I will relay this to the President. He puts the phone down. What is it, Maxwell? Sir, it seems like all the foreign diplomats in the embassies in the United States have been replaced by their American counterparts. It's probable that people who weren't American citizens were transported out, so basically, the assets and the people of the United States from Earth were transported to this place. Except for probably a few minor military buildings and embassies, we can assume that. This solves quite a lot of our issues, like our debt to other countries, and creates much more. Taylor, do you think we might need to impose martial law in order to keep order? Most likely not. This shouldn't cause major panic and the police can deal with minor unrest. The states themselves can send in the National Guard if things get too out of hand. Well, I suppose I need to prepare for a cabinet meeting and address the nation. How much information should be released? Sigh, this is going to be a long day. More nights of not much sleep. 0630 July 18, 2019. See, the TV crews from all major networks were swarming the North Lawn. The President was in front of his podium with the North Portico in the background. He was about to address the nation on the unprecedented and bizarre situation that had occurred. My fellow Americans, as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time today, the United States finds itself in an unprecedented and bizarre situation. Although we cannot confirm everything yet, we seem to have been transported into a new world. The following information is what we currently know. We seem to have lost all contact with our previous world and all non.US citizens have disappeared. However, the people and possessions of the United States, even the ones not on US soil, have been transported along with us. Our military bases in foreign countries have been transported to the lands we considered as Canada in our previous world. All American satellites are currently in the space of this world. My fellow Americans, I ask for all to remain calm as your government seeks more answers. May God bless the United States of America and may He watch over us in this new world. 0645 July 18, 2019. See inside the cabinet room, the President and most of his cabinet were convened for an emergency meeting. The cabinet included members of the National Security Council and the Chief of Staff. The cabinet meeting also includes the Secretary of the Treasury Stephen White, Attorney General Laura Wallace, Secretary of the Interior Kirby Richmond, Secretary of Agriculture Irving Patton, Secretary of Commerce Michelle Sue, Secretary of Labor Solomon McClark, Secretary of Health and Human Services Brady Saunders, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Francis Moody, Secretary of Transportation Daniele Paul, Secretary of Education Leon Crawford, and Secretary of Veteran Affairs Alvin Johns. The President looked at everyone. As all of you have been informed, we have been transported into a new world. Because of this, we have many urgent issues we need to solve in order to survive in this new world. Irving, can we sustain our population using our own production? Mr. President, I can guarantee you that the United States has a rate of more than 100% food self-sufficiency. However, we might be unable to produce some exotic crops. We might be able to find some exotic crops in this world. Good. Michelle and Solomon, some of our companies are going to be hit hard by this. Especially the ones that have foreign branches. In addition, some businesses might be hurt by a lack of workers. I need you two to sort this out. Both spoke at the same time. Understood, sir. Carlson. I need the bases that are in. The President paused. I suppose we can't call it Canada anymore. He pondered a bit. An alternative name, the Northern Frontier. I want the bases in the Northern Frontier to explore their surrounding area. We are already doing that, sir, Carlson said confidently. Good. Now, the most important part of this meeting. Kobe, can you tell us our oil consumption and production? I'm afraid that I might need to make an announcement to the American people that there will be a restriction on oil use. We currently consume about 19 million barrels per day and we produce only about 9.3 million barrels per day. That's a deficit of about 9.7 million barrels per day. We will need to greatly increase our production to keep up with the consumption. I recommend that as of right now we tap into our strategic petroleum reserves. It's also a good thing that we have about 36.5 billion barrels of proven oil reserves. So we need to ramp up the production from our oil companies. That's true, sir. Good. Well, on to the next important resource. In addition to our oil issue, we probably need to ramp up mining of metals since we can't import them anymore. Probably easier said than done. The environmentalists are definitely not going to like either of these. Well, desperate times call for desperate measures. That reminds me. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. The President immediately stood up and bolted out the door. The Secretary of Energy looked at everyone in the cabinet room. What was that about? Everyone looked at each other and shrugged. Listen to the full novel at famvetv.info, direct link in the description.